Today's episode is sponsored by Future State Media, experts in off-Amazon traffic for Amazon sellers. Future State Media will build you a custom-made website to deliver sales for you on Amazon. Built to grab traffic from search engines and social media, your site can be used as a secret weapon for launching products on Amazon or just to stabilize your Amazon sales. It means you can also build an email list on autopilot. Go to futurestatemedia.com for your free guide to Google SEO for Amazon sellers today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is your host, Michael Veazey, and I'm delighted today to be with Jana Krekic of YLT Translations, which stands for Your Listing Translations. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to guess that that is what they specialize in. So really critical topic for those who want to expand internationally. Jana, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So obviously YLT, nice self-explanatory brand, but tell us a little bit more about what you guys do for listeners.
Yes, basically. So yeah, we do listing translations. That's our primary service, but we also offer all sorts of translations that Amazon sellers need in order to get started on international markets. So we do everything from follow-up emails, Q&As, packaging, translations, image translations, EBC, basically all text you have, we can get it translated and sorted out for you. And it's not only for English listings, we also do, if you're a seller from Germany, we can also do German translations to other languages. We offer all European markets, which means German, French, Spanish, Italian, and we do also Japanese and Mexican market.
Cool. So that's quite interesting that in Mexican is quite an exotic one, but certainly Japanese is something that I'm forever begging people to try out because it's actually the third biggest marketplace by sort of sales and volume.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's basically as big as Germany, which is the biggest European market. And a lot of people have a misconception that the UK market is the biggest one, but that's wrong. So German market is the biggest one and Japanese is as close as the German market. And I absolutely understand the sellers, just being terrified by the alphabet, not being able to check anything, but there are a lot of good opportunities for your products out there, especially if you just do the little bit of the market research. You don't have to have like a specialized team in that. There are a lot of different ways how you can check if the market is going to be a good fit for your product. And such a big market as a Japanese one can offer you a lot of opportunities to get ahead of your competitors, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're very big fans of pushing for Japan here. I've had a mentoring client who basically quit her day job as a result of going into Japan. I mean, she did have some Japanese family links, I think. So she had an advantage, but she used also a service with John Kant, based in England. So he really helped with that. So yeah, if you work with somebody who could do the translations, and you need somebody to deal with the freight side of things and a bit to do with tax, but it's not actually a big deal. It's actually no more complex apart from the language side than importing into the USA for British sellers, for example.
Yeah, basically it's pretty straightforward. And when it comes to language, I mean, a lot of people, let's say American or US sellers or UK sellers, mostly they don't speak any other language. So it's basically just a foreign language for them. They should not be afraid of, it should not be should not be afraid of like going to the German market. It will be the same as going to the Japanese market, basically.
Exactly. And then people in Britain do go into Germany, although not as much as they should do. It's been easy. I mean, Brexit's going to make things interesting, but
that's right. Yeah.
But still, I mean, if you're importing into the UK from China, you might as well import into Germany from China. There's going to be a bit more hassle, but then it's a bigger price as well. So yeah, absolutely. I think the whole thing of languages is connected with really, obviously, the courage and willingness to go into the unknown, but with an expert guide that is a combination of things that you need to do as an entrepreneur anyway. If you don't go into the unknown, you won't make the money and you won't get the prize that everyone else is afraid of. But if you go in on your own without an expert guide, then you're going to make an awful lot of pain for yourself. So
definitely
talking about doing it yourself without an expert guide then, because it's a very common thing that if people have got the courage to go into Germany, they just go, well, I just use Google Translate or somebody on Fiverr, it's much cheaper, or even you can hire your own translator and do it yourself. So let's talk through this first of all. I mean, is there any kind of traction to be had in this? Can that work? What's your view on that stuff?
Well, basically, a lot of our clients, a lot of times they already have their listings done or translated by a third party or somebody they found on Fiverr. And what's the difference between the Fiverr and somebody who's actually know something about the industry and how it's actually done? So first of all, these translations of your listing should not be just like your regular translations. So from the source to the target text, you have to have certain the way how you're going to write the listing, the style. You have to understand what the client wants. So you want us to be on the same page as your client is, because a lot of people are really emotional about their products and they really want to tell the story, you know, all the storytelling and EBC that people use, and they really want you to keep that the way they wanted it done originally. So basically, a lot of people want localization, they want keyword strategy placement, and they want, for instance, search terms backends. If you find a translator on Fiverr, a translator on Fiverr would not be a good fit for an Amazon listing unless it's a really, really specialized translator who says, like, I know all the, you know, helium-10 research, we do backend strategies, we do everything like that. In that case, you might have a good fit for your listing. But usually if you just choose a regular translator, he's not going to be a good fit for you. And why is that? Well, that's because, simply explained, if you're going to sell a travel mug and it's a red color, and something which people are searching for is red travel mug, and if this translator doesn't use this keyword, your product is not going to show up in the search results. So the algorithm is not going to recognize this as a relevant product for this search term, which you would of course want to be relevant for. So what happens in time is that every time somebody launches a product internationally, Amazon gives like this false edge. So it's like the time period for, like, let's say a couple of weeks that you get a better rank than other products. And then if you don't use this opportunity that algorithm and Amazon gave to you by just like having a listing without any keywords, your product rank is gonna drop and you're gonna lose money. So you're gonna be shown for some irrelevant keywords, or not being shown at all, like maybe third or fourth page. And then even though you'll get impressions, your click-through rate is gonna go down and your product rank is going to go low and lower and lower, and you're going to be losing a lot of money and time. And this especially happens when you are new on the market. You really want to kind of have like a really, really good start, and you really want to skyrocket everything from day one, basically. So it's really important to get somebody who knows what he's doing. And you would definitely want to have somebody who knows how to do the keyword research. So when it comes to regular translators, it's a no. A regular translator can do follow-up emails, packaging translations, image translations, all the basic translations that everybody can do on every regular translation agency. And when it comes to Google Translate, well, honestly, Google Translate has come a long way from like 10 years ago. And I was recently talking at this conference, and I was actually having a lot of problems finding some like really bad examples with Google Translate, because when you type like a keyword in the Google Translate, it may or may not show the correct translation of it. So we also have a lot of clients, for instance, UK sellers, they give us their search terms and they say, okay, like, can you just like translate these as they are and just use them in listing? But this is not the right thing how to do it. And this is because a lot of combinations of the search terms are not going to be equally used on the French market, for instance. If you use like a red travel mug, maybe in French market, people are not going to search it that way. And that's why it's important. You have to do the keyword research for every market separately. And that's very, very important, because even though you translate it like that, you're not going to get anything special. And it's also really interesting how you can get actually a good result using Google Translate. For instance, there was this example with using the faucet. There's this kitchen faucet, and if you put it in Google Translate, it's gonna say something which is actually faucet in Italian. But if you search for it on the Italian market, you're not gonna get a faucet. You're gonna get like something completely different, even though it is a faucet. But Amazon products are not gonna be defined by this actual word. And then you need a help of the native translator asking, how would you say this? Like, it's not this what I got in Google Translate, even though it should be a right product. And then the right word would be lavello for it, which was not something we got in Google Translate, even though it, it showed some sort of a similar product to that. So you really need to have a really in-depth research for those keywords, and not just plain Google Translate. And a lot of times it will translate completely different, which something has nothing to do with this product. In some cases it will be correct, but will this be really correctly enough to show the right product on Amazon? Like my tip was always to just you can try Google Translate, but you always have to check what you're going to get on that market. If you're looking for this faucet, if you get something with Google, just always type it in amazon.it, and if it's something weird shows up, it means that the Google Translate is not doing a good job. And in basically 90% of cases, the Google Translate will not be doing anything good enough for your listing or something that you want to use.
Absolutely. So let's just unpack a bit of this stuff. I mean, first of all, it strikes me because obviously your professional translation background, my background's in languages. My mum was a French teacher, my grandmother's a French teacher. So it's kind of like the family trade. And one of the absolutely classic reasons that Google Translate doesn't work the way you just described is that everything has context. And this is what Google recognizes. That's what Amazon recognizes. That you can't just put a word in somewhere and say, what's the word for that? It depends what sentence you're in and what intention you have. For example, the word
exactly.
but even though faucet is like, what the hell is that? Oh yeah, it's a tap, right? But that could mean 3 or 4 different things. If you're in the world of plumbing, it means one thing. But if you are simply wanting a domestic, tap of some kind,
exactly.
why you went there, what your intention is.
Yeah, but also it's interesting because if you put a context in Google Translate, it might alter the word, but it doesn't mean that it will again mean the same thing. So my background is also in languages, and I was also CEO for this biggest Danish e-commerce. And we also had a lot of trouble with Google Translate and translators over there because we were selling on 12 different markets. And I remember an example with, there was like a spring in the couch, and it was just somebody from the translator, somebody just used a Google Translate, nobody checked that. And then the client came back to us and he was like, you use this as a spring, meaning like season of the year. So your spring in couch will be very comfortable, and that's something which quite often happens. And translators, for a lot of time, you don't know if they're using Google Translate or not if you're not speaking that language. So you would want to make sure that you also hire a proofreader, because translations are a very subjective thing. And then we want to have somebody who's going to double check everything the first person was doing, because this first person is doing it on its own, and then you kind of lose a little bit of objection, like when you do the translation yourself. So you want somebody who's a proofreader, so somebody from the side to double check the listing and say, okay, this is translated very well. So you would want to have a proofreader double checking everything your translator does.
Absolutely. And the other thing that strikes me about the whole thing is that we'll come back to this keywords thing, because people will hire somebody, even though they're native English speakers, they'll hire a native English speaker, but they'll hire them because they're experts in SEO and the Google world. And that's pretty common. And I'm a native English speaker, and because of that, I fall into terrible traps with the podcast and the related blog posts, thinking, oh, I could write this, it's fine. And actually, I've done a horrible job of Google ranking because I haven't been keyword driven, and I don't know how to do that well. So now I've got people working on that for me. So I think that's another thing that people miss, is that the art of writing keywords into a listing is an art in itself, whatever language you're in. So let's talk about keyword research in foreign markets, because I think this is obviously a very critical thing that we recognize in our own language, and it's clearly going to apply in other ones, right?
Yeah, exactly. So from our 2 years experience working with a lot of different 7 to 9 figure sellers, the best results we've had are from Helium 10. We love to use Helium 10. Of course, you have to pay for that, but I mean, you have, I think, 2 or 3 ASINs for free to try. But basically, that's something which gives very, very good results. Apart from that, a free tool called Sonar also gives you some results. You don't get as specific report as you get with Helium 10, but it does get you some, like, let's say top 10 or 20 keywords, like long tail keywords, which you want to use. And the third third one, and my favorite actually from the non-paid ones, is AMZ Suggestion Expander. And that's a really cool tool. It's basically an add-on for a Chrome browser. So you can just like add it over there, and then sometimes, depending on your product, because Helium 10 does not always get good results if your product is not very popular among other sellers, or if you're the only person selling the product, then you really cannot find so many keywords because there's basically no competition out there. But what can you do with the Amazon AMZ Suggestion Expander is you can just like write a word. Let's say we use this travel mug, and then you will just you'll get a drop-down menu with the keywords which are coming before and after this, so that you can have like a really decent long-tail keywords. Sometimes, as I said, it's really hard to find keywords in other tools, but this one basically seems to get the best out of it from everything that's on Amazon. It's extracted from there, and it's incorporated in these long tail ones. The only downside of this is that you don't get the search volume, so you don't know if this is a high traffic keyword or not. But if there's absolutely no other way to find keywords, this is how you can definitely get them.
Well, that's a great hint for anyone in any market, actually. Thank you for that. And so what's the difference? Let's take an example. So you're talking about the red travel mug. I'd say I sell that in the USA and I want to sell that in Germany. What would be my next step?
Okay, well, first of all, what we like to do is that we always like to explore the competitors. So first you find your competitors, and then you just see, how many basically items people are selling per month. Then you also want to check also their competitors' keywords, what they're ranking for. And then if we take an example of the Helium 10, you will first go to the magnet research, where you can put all the basic keywords you want your product to be ranked for. And also you can use your competitor keywords over there. You don't have to have a specific tool to research your competitors' keywords. It's very clearly written in the title of each product what are the main keywords the competitors using, and they're usually repeating. So this is what you can put in a magnet. Usually it's really a good idea if it's a really popular product, it's going to have a lot of results. So in the search volume, you might want to put, let's say, 120 or 150 as the minimal result, because if you use something which has a search volume of 20, it's not really that relevant, which means that nobody's searching for that item. So I would aim for like at least 120 in search volume, but definitely, in thousands would be much better to be used. And then after that, you can go to the Cerebro, where you can, for instance, check your competitor's ASIN, maybe like your best competitor, and then you can click on Get Competitors, and there you can find a lot of similar products from the competitors as well. So you'll get like 6 or 7 ASINs, then you will click on Get Keywords, and there it's very important, and you're gonna get like this really cool Excel sheet. It's in advanced options. You should just select ranking competitors, and you should put 2, which means that you'll get results where at least 2 competitors are ranking for these keywords. And you can also put a search volume, let's say 150, and to show only like minimum of words in keyword 2. So you only get long tail keywords, not single keywords, because these ones are too broad, and you're not going to get anything good by ranking for these. And then you'll get an Excel sheet with all the ASINs, all the competitors, and then you can rank them according to how many keywords they've been ranking for. And it's a really cool tip, because you can find if there's like a really high search volume of a specific keyword and nobody is ranking for this, then it's really a good idea to include that in your title. So basically you're going to be the only one showing up for this keyword, and that actually happens quite a lot. So you would want to incorporate all the high traffic keywords in the title. I mean, of course, depending on the category, because some of the categories go up to 100 characters, some of them go to 199. So depending on how long your title is, you want to get like minimum 3 keywords in your title. And the first 2 bullets are very, very important. The rest of 3 bullets are important, but you don't have to put such high traffic keywords in them. And of course, if you have product description, not EBC, but product description, it's also really important to put the high traffic keywords in the beginning. So it's like, let's say, first 2 sentences. And this is very important because people use Amazon app on their phones. And when you have an Amazon app, description comes first before the bullets or key features. You'll see the headline, and then you have the description, and then after that come the bullets. So it's also important important to have like some really striking good keywords in on the top of your description.
Wow. Okay. So I think you've just given us a very good sort of quick keyword research flow for any market ever. So that's
Yes,
really
this
good.
is absolutely for
Yeah.
every market.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was just like, bam, 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 like here's what, and
Yeah.
because I just want people to try this,
Mm.
because I really, when I talk and when I'm podcast, I really want to give some value to the listeners and to everybody out there so they can try it for themselves, and then if they fail, then they know that they should contact somebody, who is specialized in that field. The only problem for this is the Japanese market and the Mexican market, because there hasn't been a tool which would be capable of doing this. So Japanese market is basically done manually. You would have to search for your competitors. You would have to do it manually, and then you can use different tools. You can use AMZ Suggestion Expander with Japanese market, and you can also try basically typing that in Amazon. But you can find a lot of keywords like that. It's just going to be it's going to be time consuming, but it can be done definitely, because we've been doing that also for Japanese market, and things worked out pretty well. Just you need more days to do that than when you have a proper tool for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the main thing I would reflect here is really basic and simple for any advanced or decent Amazon seller listing, is that keyword research is absolutely critical in our native market. So why would it not be just as critical somewhere else? And by the way, I would say to an American seller wanting to sell in the UK or the other way around, it's just as critical. It doesn't matter that you think it's the same language. For starters, it isn't. If Americans start going on about putting their pants on, for English people, that means underwear.
Exactly.
Tap, a hood is a bonnet. There are lots of different keywords, but more importantly, those are easy. But it doesn't really matter if it was exactly the same. It's a different marketplace. So by chance, people look for different keywords here. So you always have to start afresh.
Absolutely.
I can't emphasize that enough, because I say that because it's for you, it's really obvious. But a lot of people who I think should know better, who are doing serious money, over $1 million a year or whatever, will just use Google Translate, and they're pleased because they get sales. And I think, sure, but what would happen if you had a proper translation done? Maybe you'd triple your sales.
Yeah, exactly.
To anyone who's doing it that way, like, do it properly, dude. If you're doing that sort of money, why not double it?
I couldn't agree more. And a lot of our clients, they come to us and they tell us, you know what, we use Amazon Launchpad. They offer free services for us, and they did our translations, but I don't know if they're any good. So I'm sure that a lot of you guys know that free service and Amazon in one sentence is not result in getting like fabulous results. So basically, Amazon Launchpad translation service is an automated translation. It's not better than Google Translate, and Amazon does not have any native translators or anything offering that for free, because native translators cost a lot of money. And if somebody's offering services for, I don't know, $10 per listing or $8 per listing, that cannot be done well, because it's really hard to find native translators who know what they're doing. Plus the keyword research and everything, it's impossible you're going to get that for $10, and also for free from Amazon. So basically stay away from cheap services.
Absolutely. Again, it's a bit like hiring somebody who doesn't know what they're doing to write a ton of blog posts for you with no knowledge of SEO. I mean, it's just kind of pointless, because the entire point, well, I guess you got to do a couple of jobs. Let's reflect on this, because I mean, we've got to come back to what's the listing there for. I would say, and let's get your thoughts on this, I would say it has to rank. So if you don't rank on somewhere like where there's some traffic, mostly page one, it's no good. So that's about you in the algorithm. It's got to get the click, so the title's got to help people to actually click, and then it's got to get the conversion, which again means that the words as well as the images, of course, have to do the job, right? So there's a blend of different machine and human attraction that we're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
What's your view of the purpose of a listing and how that works?
Well, I would definitely agree with by having a really good written listing. First of all, I think the keywords are very, very important, because that's like number one when it comes to listings, because a lot of people are not even going to read the listing. And what I tell also the clients, because sometimes they get like bullets, like they maximize their bullets, like it's like $4.99 for each bullet. They just want to maximize it all, but it's usually that a lot of listings only the first 1,000 characters get indexed. I mean, of course, nobody has confirmed this yet, as nothing else has been ever confirmed for 100%. But usually 1,000 characters get indexed. This is from my own experience. And you would want to get the keywords done like properly, and nobody wants to read a novel in your bullets, basically. So I would say that people should keep it short. It's good to have this brand storytelling and stuff like that in EBC, but when it comes to like a title and bullets, you just want to have like this clear instructions what your product is about, the materials, what you can do with it, but you should have like proper keywords, because without these keywords, people are not gonna come to your listing and not gonna read your fabulous story about your travel mug, how you can take you places. So I think the keywords are number one. Number two is definitely when people land on your listing because of your keywords, then they want to read it, and they probably want to scroll down to EBC. If you have it, of course, if you're an A++ content. But if you have it, I would focus mostly on EBC, not on like what's written in bullets when it comes to like the language. I mean, definitely, as I said, some key features are absolutely necessary in bullets and the title, but then people will scroll down and go to EBC. They would also check pictures. I would also always write some text on images, depending on what your product sells. It's always going to be like a happy people, puppies and stuff like that. Kevin King also talked about that. Having like, if you're selling an ice cream cone, you want like happy, shiny people, families, like happy pets and stuff like that. So that's also very, very relevant for a listing. And also, like, yes, that's brand storytelling. A lot of people are going to buy the product because they can relate to that. And it's also very important the style the listing or the EBC are written in, because if we say like a US listing with the sales, the language, and like fabulous t-shirts, just like wake up and grab coffee, way of writing, that's not going to work on German market. German market, it doesn't have that type of language. It's not something that the German people are used to reading and then buying it. It doesn't work on the German market. German market is like really strict, clean, and like kind of disciplined listing with like bam, 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 like all pure facts, and that's it. And you have to adjust the listing to the market a lot. You have to localize it. You have to transform all the rhymes or the jokes. You have to adjust to the target market. So that's what I think it's very important. So keywords and short bullets with key information, storytelling, and localization is very important when it comes to your listings. And also what I would suggest, it doesn't have to do with the listing writing, but also about promotions and coupons, because people like that, and then maybe they were going to buy something which is like a good price with something else, and as a result this other product can show up with frequently bought together. So if you have like 2 or 3 products and you can, like, by making the promotions and coupons, then they can land in the frequently bought together section. So basically you get like a free commercial for your other product.
Again, there's a great deal of stuff that is useful for anyone in any market, but I'd want to just pick up on that localization thing, because again, people talk about language like it's just, I don't know, like they're inhuman. I mean, you can't just translate, even if you accurately translate what you do, you can't do it without changing cultures, because as you say, like if you go to a German and say, hey man, how you going? And you've never met before, they're expecting you to call them Herr, Doctor, Professor, Michael.
Yes, they're much more formal. German language is very formal. Yeah, definitely.
You can't just charge in somewhere without changing. And this is a very American disease. The British are probably the second worst in the world, so congratulations. But I mean, it really, the world is not a big version of America with slightly different languages.
No, a lot of people would think that.
And British people as well. I mean, they go to Spain and talk loudly in English and expect people to understand that. You've got to really respect. If you're trying to build rapport with somebody, you have to understand their language, period. So let's talk about that in Germany specifically, for example. That's the biggest market after all. So
yes,
what are some do's and don'ts for British or American sellers in Germany?
Well, depending on the type of the product, you would want to use like Z, which is politely saying you. So it's not like you with a second person singular, but second person plural. You would want to use that. So formal and informal. You might want to test that. But depending on what type of product you sell, you might want to use more formal versus the informal approach. Definitely, you would want the information to be very, very clear. You would want people to have like what this product is for exactly, what colors are there, what are the materials. Everything needs to be very, very transparent. And I would not say that they would like I don't know, like American salesly type of language, like like we have everything, come on and shop with us and stuff like that. They just want everything to be very precise. In some, I would say that in greater extent it will be more formal, but the most important is very clear and transparent. It's like the listing is as its language. It's very kind of discipline, order, and just everything is clear after I read this listing. Not too long, because I don't have time to read the whole listing, and very, very clear. So that's how it works best for German. So clean, transparent, and very clear to the customer how is this going to be used for, materials, and if there's something which is hazardous material or anything like it, should be mentioned definitely in the text.
Excellent. So that's a cultural change. Now, what about the actual language structure? Because obviously, if anyone knows about German, they're famous for creating very, very long words, whereas in English, it's a long phrase. So how on earth does that interact with keywords? If you're trying to rank for travel mug, a red travel mug, for example, how would that interact?
So basically, as we know, we should use long tail keywords, because then we get more specific keyword for our product, and we're going to lead the customer directly to our product and not some other broad search. But by single keywords, we always mention it's going to be one word. But in German, they have a lot of compound words. So it might look like that's actually one word, but it's actually 2 or 3 words put into one. So when you have like a compound word, which is like a one word, then it's okay to use it, because that's actually going to be your long tail keyword. And they have like really, really long words. And a lot of times that's something that you should consider when translating it from like the US listing to the German listing, because sometimes the title might be a lot longer than it is on your English listing, and then might extend that 199 limit for instance, this category, and then you will have to really kind of cut down on something, because a lot of longer compound words can come into problem when it comes to these lengths when it comes to Amazon. Also, it's very common for French as well. French also has a lot longer like descriptions and bullets and everything, but it doesn't have such compound words as the German language does. So when it comes to German, it's okay to use one word as the compound word.
Great. So there's a very good, important, simple mechanics, if nothing else, that forces us to be different, that you're going to take up more space to say more or less the same thing in German or French, which, as I speak their languages, I can relate to that, having done my own translations, not necessarily particularly well. I mean, my German's reasonably fluent, but even so, I'm not a native speaker. So it was probably like 80% right. But yeah, in the end, you can't get around needing a native speaker, but also you can't just recreate what you have in America or in Britain or wherever.
No. You really have to pay attention and effort, and you cannot do it in like 5 hours. Really, you need time to devote to a really good listing. And also, when we're talking about something which is really specific for certain languages, when it comes to French language, I'm sure a lot of you know that there are like a lot of accents over words. Like 4 or 5 styles, different accents. And a lot of people are wondering, like, should I use this or not? Is this grammatically correct to use it without the accents? Because a lot of keyword results would show up without these accents. And no, it's grammatically incorrect to use this in a text where you should have your accents. But if you use these words in capital, then these words can be used without the accents, and then this is going to be grammatically correct to use these words, and you can use really, really high traffic keywords like that. Of course, capital letters are not allowed to be used in the title, but you can use it elsewhere. Some bullets and product description, you can use them elsewhere. But it's a really good tip how to maximize on the usage of the keywords you got. Because from my experience, we always get a lot of these results, and then it's, like maybe the keyword will have like 3,000 search volume and it doesn't have the accents, you cannot use it. But maybe it's a good fit for you to use it like the first bullet with capitalized, and then, you get a really good keyword basically in your listing.
So just thinking about what the next things we need to talk about. Let's talk about the algorithm, because obviously we're still working on Amazon. presumably in Amazon Germany has a similar algorithm to Amazon US, and they tend to roll things out in the US first and then bring them to Europe, right, fairly shortly afterwards. How does your awareness of the algorithm play into your creation of listings, if that's relevant at all?
Well, that's absolutely relevant, but we are all unfortunate to never know when something new is going to happen. I mean, not like Amazon's going to ever give us a heads up on that. So basically what it's really important is that I have a lot of people I know from the industry, and also customer representative in Seattle from Amazon. And then we always try to keep us updated, have like regular meetings. And then of course you can also find out things in Facebook groups when somebody says, oh no, all of my reviews are gone. Like, looks like algorithm has gone crazy. And there are like a lot of these like false alarms. We got a lot of clients just sending us emails saying, oh, Amazon is going to cut down titles to 50 characters, like we need to redo everything. And then 3 days later, it's supposed it was like a false alarm, you know? So you just always have to be alert. You always have to check what's happening. I always contact clients to get a feedback, you know, how well the keywords are indexed and what's going on, if everything is okay. And I always encourage customers to write back to us if something changes with their listing, because we also do an optimization like every 6 months. So that's really important to stay in the game. And also, I mean, one of the changes which happened like half a year ago was about the back-end search terms, where, you know, instead of like having the 5 lines, it was like now all one line with like 249 bytes. You know, there was something which a lot of people got like trouble with. And it's also very important. And also when the people have a lot of old listings, you know, the grandfathered listings, and the new changes of the algorithm, they don't affect these grandfather listings. And they're just like, well, I don't think anything happened, but just because they had really, really old listings. But if they decided to optimize that grandfathered listing, then like Amazon might not even like ban the whole listing because they were not done accordingly to the algorithm. So it's very, very important to keep up track with that, to listen to a lot of, I don't know, masterminds. You have so many different channels of information, how you can get. And that's very important, because, you know, if we do a listing to somebody and then the title is too long, and Black Friday is in 2 days, you know, it's not going to be enough time for this product to be, you know, changed and uploaded. And it's definitely something we have to pay very, very close attention to.
100%. And I guess I'm biased, but we have a mastermind in London. I have to say that is a great place to stay up to date, because it's really vetted, good quality people are doing 6, 7 figures, 8 figures in some cases. So it doesn't have the same digging through the trash to get the gold kind of experience. Facebook groups, which I think is a very variable place to get any information. Podcasts can be good. It just depends on the quality of the guest. But
exactly,
yeah, for my money, masterminds are the best way to do it. And a small plug here, since we mentioned in masterminds that the 10K Collective and £1 Million Mastermind, if you want to check that out, go to amazingfba.com/10KC for 10K Collective.